Because life has no reset button, think safety.
Dr. Thomas DiLiberto. I'm the National Wildlife Disease Coordinator for the United States Department of Agriculture, Animal, Plant, and Health Inspection Service, Wildlife Services. Wild bird surveillance is one component of numerous surveillance techniques that is employed really around the world and in particular in the United States. The risk of introduction for avian influenza or high-path avian influenza into the United States is really highest in the movement of poultry and poultry products and the pet and wild bird trade. Now, when I say the highest risk is from these factors, really it's the illegal movement of these products, because the United States does not allow any animals or animal products into the United States from countries that have currently a high-path avian influenza. So it would be really the illegal movements of these products in the United States. But there are other ways that high-path avian influenza can enter the United States. One possible way is through migratory birds. And as part of the President's National Pandemic Influenza Plan, we are monitoring wild migratory birds and the potential movement of the virus through that mechanism into the United States. As part of really a big comprehensive effort to protect the United States from entry of this virus. There are four main migratory pathways in North America. These are termed the Pacific Flyway, which obviously comes down from Alaska through British Columbia and the western United States, down into Mexico, Central America, and even into South America. There is the Central Flyway that moves through the central plains of Canada and the United States. The Mississippi Flyway, which moves from Alaska through Canada down the Mississippi corridor. And then there's the Atlantic Flyway, which moves from Greenland, northeastern Canada, down the eastern seaboard into the Caribbean and Central and South America. These are the four major pathways which wild birds migrate in North America. Now, obviously, there are many, many millions of wild birds that travel these corridors every year, moving from north to south in the fall and winter, and south to north in the spring and summer. These birds move across many international borders and even continents, where some birds we do know move from North America into eastern Russia, and also birds move from North America into Greenland, where in those areas they can mix with wild birds that have migrated to those areas from Asia and Europe. And so we can get this mixing of continental birds where the potential for exchange of virus between these different groups of birds can occur. And that's one concern that we have is that when North American birds mix with birds, say, from Asia, where we know virus exists, that they might contract the virus and then move it down the continental pathways in North America and even down into Central or South America. In the United States, as part of the Interagency Strategic Plan, we've outlined 5 methods for surveillance of wild birds for high-path avian influenza. These are sampling of live, healthy birds, sampling for morbidity, mortality events, or really what we call sick or dead birds, sampling from birds that have been collected from hunters and indigenous hunting, sampling with sentinel species, and finally environmental sampling, or the sampling of feces that have been left behind by birds. In the United States, during the 2006-2007 fall-spring season, the United States collectively sampled over 120,000 wild birds and an additional 50,000 environmental samples. In this fall and winter, 2007-2008, we will be sampling approximately 75,000 wild birds and 25,000 environmental samples. Now, the reason for the decrease in sample size is really because of all the information we gained from the larger sample the previous year. in 2006 and 2007, we really documented, we were out to document that high-path avian influenza did not occur in our wild birds. Therefore, we sampled a lot of birds from a lot of different bird groups. Now that we've documented we don't have it, sampling is now going to focus on those higher risk species. Those species of birds that we know either come directly from infected areas or have come in contact with birds that come from infected areas. So our sample size will be smaller, but those samples will be of higher value to us. I think really, again, to emphasize that the main risk of disease transmission, especially from high-path avian influenza, is not from wild migratory birds. However, it is a small possibility that wild birds could bring the virus to the United States, and therefore we can't ignore that potential risk. So while the United States Department of Agriculture, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Interior, and Health and Human Safety are all focusing on those very important higher risk areas, for instance, movement of people from infected areas, movement of poultry and poultry products from infected areas, and also illegal movement of birds from those areas and through the pet and wild bird trade. Even though we're doing a very good job at looking at those areas, we still can't ignore the potential pathway of wild birds, and that's really why we're doing this sampling.